A black teen defies racism in football, emerging as a star despite the odds. Press like and subscribe to catch his gripping journey in our new video, and stay tuned. The football field at Jefferson High School in a small Georgia town was a sprawling expanse of green under the blazing midday sun, its goalposts casting long shadows across the turf, the air thick with the scent of freshly cut grass and the shouts of players running drills. Isaiah Jackson stood on the sidelines, his small frame a quiet presence amidst the chaos. His maroon and white football uniform, slightly oversized, his helmet tucked under his arm, his short, curly hair damp with sweat, his deep brown eyes scanning the field with a mix of focus and unease. Isaiah was a 16-year-old junior of African descent, his height a modest 5 feet 6 inches, his body lean and wiry from years of running and tackling. His passion for football, a fire that had burned since he was a child. He had grown up idolizing players like Russell Wilson, dreaming of one day playing in the NFL. But at Jefferson High, his love for the game made him a target. The school's football team was a tight-knit group, its members mostly white boys who saw Isaiah's presence as an intrusion. Isaiah was one of the few black players on the team, a fact that made him an easy mark for those who clung to their prejudices. As he stretched, preparing for drills, a group of players gathered near the 50-yard line, their voices a low hum as they watched him. Ryan Mitchell, a tall, broad-shouldered senior with short blonde hair and icy blue eyes, led the pack. His friends, a mix of white teammates, all larger and more assertive than Isaiah, their laughter a constant assault. "Look at him," Ryan called, his voice sharp, his tone loud enough for Isaiah to hear. "He thinks he's a real running back. What a joke." Isaiah's heart sank, his hands trembling as he adjusted his helmet. He tried to focus on his stretches, his determination a quiet defiance, but Ryan's voice cut through his thoughts like a blade. "He's so scrawny," Ryan continued, his tone mocking. "What's he going to do? Run away from the ball? He doesn't belong here." His friends laughed, their voices a chorus of scorn. Isaiah's cheeks burned, his hands trembling. He wanted to fight back, to tell Ryan he was wrong, but the fear of escalating the situation, of drawing more attention, kept him silent. He turned back to his stretches, his heart aching. He just wanted to play football in peace, to be part of the team. But Ryan wasn't done, his voice a relentless assault. "Where'd you even get that uniform?" he said, his tone sharp. "Did you steal it from the Pee Wee League? It's pathetic." Isaiah's throat tightened, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm here to play," he said, his words a quiet plea. "I'm not hurting anyone." Ryan's laugh was loud, his voice a mix of amusement and contempt. "Play?" he said, his tone mocking. You don't belong on this team. You're not one of us." The group laughed harder, their voices a mix of amusement and scorn. One of the boys, a stocky kid named Tyler, stepped closer. "Yeah, go back to where you came from," he said, his tone sharp. "This field is for real players." The other players on the team glanced over, their whispers a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "He's just trying to practice," a boy named Marcus murmured. "They're being awful to him," his friend replied. But no one intervened, their silence a weight on Isaiah's shoulders. He felt alone, his shame a heavy burden. His passion for football a double-edged sword. It was his joy, his escape, but it also made him a target. The field was Isaiah's dream space, a place where he longed to shine. But even here, he wasn't safe. Ryan's group grew bolder, their taunts escalating as they moved closer to the sidelines. Tyler grabbed a nearby water bottle, Isaiah's, and squirted it onto the ground near Isaiah's feet, creating a muddy patch. "Oops," he said, his tone mocking. "Guess you'll have to run through that now." Isaiah's heart raced, his hands trembling. "That's mine," he said, his voice steady despite the fear. "Stop it!" Tyler laughed, his voice a mix of amusement and contempt. "Make me," he challenged, his tone a taunt. Ryan smirked, his voice sharp. "He won't," he said, He's too small, too weak. He doesn't belong here. The group closed in, their presence a looming threat. One of the other boys, a lanky kid named Ethan, pushed Isaiah's shoulder. "Get out," he said, his tone a command. "You're not welcome here." Isaiah stumbled back, his heart racing. "I belong here just as much as you do," he said, his voice steady. "I'm not going anywhere." Ryan's eyes narrowed, his tone sharp. "Oh, really?" he said, his voice a challenge. "We'll see about that. Let's see how you handle a real tackle." The group laughed, their voices a chorus of contempt. Ethan took a marker and scribbled "outsider" on Isaiah's helmet. "There, Diemar," he said, his tone mocking. "Now everyone knows what you are." The other players on the team continued to whisper, their voices a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "He's just trying to be on the team," a boy named Caleb murmured. "They're going too far," his friend replied, but no one intervened. Isaiah felt their stares, a weight he couldn't escape. His shame a heavy burden, but he held on to his passion, his dream, the thud of the football that kept him going. "I'll show them," he thought, his voice a quiet whisper in his mind, a resolve that gave him strength. The tension on the football field was palpable, the air thick with the weight of Ryan's malice. Isaiah's heart raced, his mind racing. He didn't know how much longer he could endure this, how much more he could take, but he knew a moment of reckoning was coming, a moment that would push him to his breaking point, a moment that would test his strength, his truth, his very identity. Beside the football field at Jefferson High School was a sprawling arena of intensity under the midday sun, the freshly mowed turf glistening with dew, the air filled with the sharp thud of shoulder pads colliding and the rhythmic shouts of coaches barking orders. Isaiah Jackson stood on the sidelines, his small frame a tense silhouette amidst the flurry of practice, his maroon and white uniform slightly loose on his slender body, his helmet clutched in his hands, his short, curly hair damp with sweat, his deep brown eyes scanning the field with a mix of focus and apprehension. His hands adjusted the straps on his pads, his heart beating steadily despite the undercurrent of tension. Isaiah was a 16-year-old junior of African descent, his height a modest 5 feet 6 inches, his lean, wiry build a testament to his speed and agility, his passion for football a driving force in his life. But at Jefferson High, that passion made him a target. The team was a tight-knit group, its members mostly white boys who saw Isaiah as an outsider. Isaiah was one of the few black players on the squad, a fact that made him an easy mark for those who thrived on prejudice. As he prepared to join a running drill, a group of teammates gathered near the 40-yard line, their voices a low hum of malice. Ryan Mitchell, the team's star linebacker, led the pack, his short blonde hair catching the sunlight, his icy blue eyes glinting with disdain. His friends, Tyler, Ethan, and a boy named Caleb, stood beside him, their laughter a constant assault. "Look at him," Ryan called, his voice sharp, his tone loud enough for Isaiah to hear. "He thinks he can run with us. What a joke." Isaiah's heart sank, his hands tightening around his helmet. He tried to focus on the drill, his determination a quiet defiance. But Ryan's voice sliced through his thoughts like a razor. "He's so weak," Ryan continued, his tone mocking. "What's he going to do? Carry the ball with those skinny legs? He doesn't belong on this team." His friends laughed, their voices a chorus of scorn. Isaiah's cheeks burned, his hands trembling. He wanted to fight back, to tell Ryan he was wrong. But the fear of escalating the situation, of drawing more attention, kept him silent. He turned back to the drill, his heart aching. He just wanted to play football in peace, to be part of the team. But Ryan wasn't done, his voice a relentless assault. "You think you're a real running back, Isaiah," he said, his tone sharp. "You're just here to fill a spot. Go back to where you came from." The group laughed harder, their voices a mix of amusement and contempt. Tyler stepped forward, his voice mocking. "Yeah, Isaiah," he said, "maybe you should stick to something else. This field isn't for you." The other players on the team glanced over, their whispers a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "He's not that bad," a boy named Marcus murmured. "They're being awful to him," his friend replied. But no one intervened, their silence a weight on Isaiah's shoulders. He felt alone, his shame a heavy burden, his passion for football a double-edged sword. It was his joy, his escape, but it also made him a target. The field was Isaiah's dream space, a place where he longed to shine. But even here, he wasn't safe. Ryan's group grew bolder, their taunts escalating as they moved closer to the sidelines. Ethan, a lanky boy with a cruel grin, stepped forward. "Hey, Isaiah," he called, his voice sharp. He grabbed a nearby water bottle, Isaiah's, and squirted it onto the turf near Isaiah's feet, creating a slippery patch. "Oops," he said, his tone mocking. "Guess you'll have to run through that now." Isaiah's heart raced, his hands trembling. "That's mine," he said, his voice steady despite the rising panic. "Stop it!" Ethan laughed, his voice a mix of amusement and contempt. "Make me," he challenged, his tone a taunt. Ryan smirked, his voice sharp. "He won't," he said. "He's too small, too weak. He doesn't belong here." The group closed in, their presence a looming threat. Caleb took it further. "Let's see how he runs with this," he said, his voice sharp. He grabbed a handful of dirt from the sideline and tossed it onto Isaiah's uniform, the red dust staining his jersey. "Oops," he said, his tone mocking. "Guess you'll have to play dirty now." Isaiah brushed the dirt off, his hands trembling, his voice breaking with frustration. "Stop it," he shouted, his voice a plea. "I'm just trying to practice." Ryan laughed, his voice a mix of amusement and malice. "Practice?" he said, his tone icy. "You're a joke. You don't fit in here." The group laughed, their voices a relentless assault. Tyler added to the cruelty. "Let's make sure everyone knows," he said, his voice sharp. He grabbed a marker and wrote "wannabe" on Isaiah's shoulder pads. "There, he said, his tone mocking. "Now everyone knows what you are." The other players on the team continued to whisper, their voices a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "He's just trying to practice," a boy named Caleb murmured. "They're going too far," his friend replied, but no one intervened, their silence a weight on Isaiah's shoulders. He felt alone, his shame a heavy burden, but he held on to his resolve. The thud of the football, a distant dream that kept him going. "I'll show them," he thought, his voice a quiet whisper in his mind, a resolve that gave him strength. The tension on the football field was palpable, the air thick with the weight of Ryan's malice. Isaiah's heart raced, his mind racing. He didn't know how much longer he could endure this, how much more he could take. But he knew a moment of reckoning was coming, a moment that would push him to his breaking point, a moment that would test his strength, his truth, his very identity. It didn't. The football field at Jefferson High School was at a crucible of intensity under the scorching afternoon sun, the turf radiating heat, the air thick with the scent of sweat, and the sharp clatter of shoulder pads colliding. Isaiah Jackson stood in the backfield during a scrimmage, his small frame a determined figure amidst the chaos, his maroon and white uniform now smeared with grass stains, his helmet slightly askew over his short, curly hair. His deep brown eyes narrowed with focus as he prepared to receive the snap. His hands flexed in readiness. Isaiah was a 16-year-old junior of African descent. His height a modest 5 feet 6 inches. His lean, wiry build a testament to his speed and agility. His passion for football a burning flame despite the hostility he faced. But at Jefferson High, that passion made him a target. The team was a tight-knit group, its members mostly white boys who saw Isaiah as an outsider. Isaiah was one of the few black players on the squad, a fact that made him an easy mark for those who thrived on prejudice. As he lined up for the play, a group of teammates gathered on the defensive line, their voices a low hum of malice. Ryan Mitchell, the team's star linebacker, led the pack, his short blonde hair damp with sweat, his icy blue eyes glinting with a cruel intent. His friends, Tyler, Ethan, and Caleb stood beside him, their laughter a constant undercurrent. "Let's see how he takes this," Ryan called, his voice sharp, his tone loud enough for Isaiah to hear. "He thinks he can run past me. Let's teach him a lesson." Isaiah's heart sank, his hands trembling as he adjusted his stance. He tried to focus on the play, his determination a quiet defiance, but Ryan's voice sliced through his concentration like a shard of ice. "He's such a joke," Ryan continued, his tone mocking. "He'll probably fumble. He doesn't belong out here." His friends laughed, their voices a chorus of scorn. Isaiah's cheeks burned, his hands trembling. He wanted to fight back, to tell Ryan he was wrong, but the fear of escalating the situation, of drawing more attention, kept him silent. He turned back to the play, his heart aching. He just wanted to play football in peace, to be part of the team. But Ryan had other plans, his voice a venomous promise. "Watch this, boys," he said, his tone sharp. The quarterback snapped the ball, and Isaiah took off, his speed carrying him down the field as he caught the handoff, his body a blur of motion. But Ryan charged forward, his massive frame a wall of aggression. Instead of a clean tackle, he lowered his shoulder and aimed directly for Isaiah's upper body, a brutal hit that sent Isaiah crashing to the ground, a sickening crunch echoing as his shoulder took the brunt of the impact. The crowd of teammates gasped, their voices a mix of shock and amusement. "Nailed him!" Tyler shouted, his tone mocking. Ethan doubled over with laughter. "Nice hit, Ryan," he called, his voice sharp. Caleb smirked. "He deserved that," he said, his tone cruel. The other players on the field glanced over, their whispers a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "That was too hard," a boy named Marcus murmured. "They're going too far," his friend replied, but no one intervened, their silence a weight on Isaiah's shoulders. He felt alone, his shame a heavy burden, his passion for football a double-edged sword. It was his joy, his escape, but it also made him a target. Coach Thompson, a gruff man with a weathered face, stood on the sidelines, his arms crossed, a smirk playing on his lips. "Just a hard hit, boys," he called, his tone dismissive. "Isaiah, get up. It's all part of the game." The team laughed, their voices a chorus of amusement. But Isaiah's shoulder throbbed with a searing pain, his hands trembling as he clutched his arm, his breath coming in ragged gasps. I can't move it," he said, his voice breaking with pain. "My shoulder, it's bad." "Oh," Ryan laughed, his voice sharp. "Stop being dramatic," he said, his tone mocking. "You're fine. Don't make a big deal out of it." Tyler chimed in. "Yeah, Isaiah," he said, his tone cruel. "It's just a little fun. You're not cut out for this anyway." The group laughed, their voices a relentless assault. Isaiah struggled to sit up, his hands trembling, the pain in his shoulder radiating down his arm. "I need help," he said, his voice a plea, but Coach Thompson waved him off. "Walk it off, kid." "Mine," he said, his tone sharp. "We've got a scrimmage to finish." The other players on the field continued to whisper, their voices a mix of concern and indifference. "He looks hurt," a boy named Caleb murmured. "They shouldn't be laughing," his friend replied, but no one intervened. Isaiah felt their stares, a weight he couldn't escape, his shame a heavy burden, the pain in his shoulder a searing reminder of his vulnerability, but he held on to his resolve. The thud of the football, a distant dream that kept him going. "I'll show them," he thought, his voice a quiet whisper in his mind, a resolve that gave him strength. Even as he limped off the field, his shoulder throbbing with every step, his heart racing with pain and anger, he knew he had to keep going. The tension on the football field was palpable, the air thick with the weight of Ryan's malice. Isaiah's heart raced, his mind racing. He didn't know how much longer he could endure this, how much more he could take, but he knew a moment of reckoning was coming, a moment that would push him to his breaking point, a moment that would test his strength, his truth, his very identity. The medical room at Jefferson High School was a cramped space, its beige walls lined with faded posters about health and safety, the air heavy with the scent of antiseptic and the faint hum of a ceiling fan. Isaiah Jackson sat on a stiff chair, his small frame slumped in pain, his maroon and white uniform now crumpled and grass-stained, his helmet resting on the floor beside him, his short curly hair disheveled, his deep brown eyes glistening with a mix of pain and frustration, his right hand clutching his injured shoulder, the throbbing ache a constant reminder of Ryan's brutal hit. Isaiah was a 16-year-old junior of African descent, his height a modest 5 feet 6 inches, his passion for football a beacon in the storm of adversity. But at Jefferson High, that passion had made him a target. The deliberate tackle by Ryan during practice had left him with a serious shoulder injury, and now he awaited the school nurse's assessment. The nurse, a stern woman with graying hair and a clipboard, examined his shoulder, her fingers probing gently. "You've got a severe contusion," she said, her voice clinical. "Possibly a sprain, maybe worse. You'll need an X-ray to rule out a fracture, and you should see a doctor immediately." Isaiah's heart sank, his hands trembling. I can't move it much," he said, his voice breaking. "It hurts so bad." The nurse nodded, her tone matter-of-fact. "I'll notify the administration," she said. "But you need to get to a hospital as soon as possible." Isaiah's mind raced, his heart aching. He knew his family's finances were tight, but he also knew he couldn't ignore the injury. The door creaked open, and Principal Carter, a tall man with a stern face and a gray suit, stepped inside, his expression a mix of impatience and detachment. "Isaiah," he said, his voice sharp, "I've spoken with Coach Thompson. What happened out there was just a rough play. Nothing more." Isaiah's heart raced, his hands trembling. "It wasn't just a play," he said, his voice steady despite the pain. "Ryan hit me on purpose. He wanted to hurt me." Principal Carter raised a hand, his voice sharp. "Enough," he said, his tone final. "Coach Thompson and the other players said it was an accident. There's no evidence of intent. We're not pursuing this further." Isaiah's breath caught, his voice breaking. "No evidence?" he said, his tone a plea. "I can barely move my shoulder. They laughed at me. They've been bullying me for months." Carter's eyes narrowed, his voice cold. "You're overreacting," he said. "Football's a tough sport. These things happen. You need to toughen up." The nurse glanced at Carter, her voice cautious. "Sir, his injury is serious," she said, her tone concerned. "He needs medical attention." Carter waved her off, his voice sharp. "His parents can handle that," he said. "The school isn't responsible for injuries during practice." Isaiah's heart sank, his hands trembling. "That's not fair," he said, his voice breaking. "I got hurt because of them. You're supposed to protect us." When Carter turned to leave, his voice cold. "Practice is over. Go home." "Isaiah," he said, his tone final. The door slammed shut behind him, leaving Isaiah alone with his pain. The nurse sighed, her voice soft. "I'm sorry, Isaiah," she said. "I'll write a note for your parents. Get to a hospital as soon as you can." Isaiah nodded, his heart aching. He felt abandoned, the weight of the school's indifference a heavy burden, his injury a searing reminder of his vulnerability. But he held on to his resolve. The thud of the football, a distant dream that kept him going. "I'll show them," he thought, his voice a quiet whisper in his mind, a resolve that gave him strength. He left the medical room, his shoulder throbbing with every step, his gait uneven as he made his way home. The hospital visit confirmed the severity, a severe shoulder sprain with a partial tear in the rotator cuff. The doctor's voice gentle but serious. "You'll need physical therapy," she said. "It'll take time, but with effort, you can play again." Isaiah's heart sank, his hands trembling. "But I play football," he said, his voice breaking. "I need my shoulder." The doctor nodded, her tone encouraging. "You can still play," she said. But you'll need to adapt, build strength, focus on technique. Isaiah's mind raced, his heart aching. He knew this injury would change everything, but he also knew he couldn't give up. Back at school, the team continued as if nothing had happened. Ryan and his group, Tyler, Ethan, and Caleb, smirked as Isaiah returned, his right arm in a sling. "Look at the cripple," Ryan called, his voice sharp. "Still think you belong here?" Isaiah's heart raced, his hands trembling. "I'm here to play," he said, his voice steady. "I'm not quitting." Ethan laughed, his voice mocking. "Play," he said. "You can't even lift your arm. Give up already." The group laughed, their voices a relentless assault. The other players on the team glanced over. Their whispers a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "He's still here," a boy named Marcus murmured. "He's tougher than he looks," his friend replied, but no one intervened, their silence a weight on Isaiah's shoulders. He felt alone, his shame a heavy burden, but he held on to his resolve. The doctor's words echoing in his mind. "You can still play," a mantra that gave him strength. Isaiah began physical therapy with renewed determination, adapting to his injury. He focused on strengthening his left side, honing his footwork to compensate for his limited arm mobility. He practiced late into the evenings, his small frame a testament to resilience, his passion for football unyielding. "I'll show them," he thought, his voice a quiet whisper in his mind, a resolve that gave him strength. The tension at Jefferson High was palpable, the air thick with the weight of Ryan's malice. Isaiah's heart raced, his mind racing. He didn't know how much longer he could endure this, how much more he could take. But he knew a moment of reckoning was coming, a moment that would push him to his breaking point, a moment that would test his strength, his truth, his very identity. The football stadium at Jefferson High School was a crucible of energy under the blazing Friday night lights, the emerald turf glowing against the starry sky, the air electric with the scent of grilled hot dogs and the roar of a packed crowd. Isaiah Jackson stood in the backfield during a pivotal playoff game, his small frame a beacon of resilience, his maroon and white uniform now fitting snugly over his lean, wiry build, his helmet shielding his short, curly hair. His deep brown eyes narrowed with fierce determination, his right shoulder, still recovering from the injury, supported by a brace, his hands flexed in readiness as he prepared to take the handoff. Isaiah was a 16-year-old junior of African descent, his height a modest 5 feet 6 inches, his passion for football an unyielding force despite the adversity he had faced, the bullying from Ryan and his clique, the deliberate tackle that had sprained his shoulder. And the school's initial refusal to take responsibility had only fueled his resolve. Through months of grueling physical therapy, Isaiah had adapted to his injury, focusing on his speed and footwork to compensate for his limited shoulder mobility. Tonight, with the score tied in the fourth quarter, he had a chance to prove his worth. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, their voices a mix of cheers and tension as the announcer's voice boomed, "Fourth down!" 2 minutes left. Jefferson High needs a touchdown to win. The stands were packed with students, parents, and scouts, their eyes locked on Isaiah. Ryan Mitchell and his group, Tyler, Ethan, and Caleb, stood on the defensive line, their faces a mix of skepticism and unease. Ryan's icy blue eyes narrowed. "He'll fumble," he muttered, his voice sharp. "He can't even hold the ball right." Tyler smirked. "Yeah, he's a weak link," he said, his tone mocking. The other players on the team glanced over, their whispers a mix of hope and doubt. "He's been solid lately," a boy named Marcus murmured. "He might do it," his friend replied. The quarterback snapped the ball, and Isaiah took off, his speed a blur as he received the handoff, weaving through the defense with agility, his injured shoulder screaming with every juke, but his determination unyielding. Ryan charged forward, his massive frame in aiming for another brutal hit, but Isaiah spun out of his grasp, his feet dancing across the turf. The crowd gasped, their voices a mix of shock and awe. "He's past Ryan," a spectator in a red jacket shouted. "He's unstoppable." her friend replied. Isaiah sprinted down the field, his legs pumping, his left arm cradling the ball, the defense closing in, but he found a gap, diving into the end zone for a touchdown as the clock hit 0. The stadium erupted, their cheers a deafening wave. Touchdown! Jefferson wins! Or the announcer shouted, the scoreboard flashing the final score. The stands exploded with applause. Isaiah! Isaiah! The crowd chanted, their voices a testament to his triumph. Isaiah rose to his feet, his heart soaring as he removed his helmet, his teammates rushing to surround him. You're a beast, man! Marcus shouted, his voice warm. Even Ryan's clique couldn't deny the moment, their faces pale, their silence a grudging acknowledgement. He scored, Ethan stammered, his voice a whisper. Caleb shook his head. I can't believe it, he muttered, his tone begrudging. Isaiah's heart raced, his chest heaving with exertion, his shoulder throbbing, but his spirit alight. He had done it. He had led his team to victory, proving his worth despite his injury. Coach Thompson approached, his gruff face a mix of shock and pride. Isaiah, you've been our game changer these past weeks, he said, his voice warm. I was wrong to overlook you. I'm sorry. Isaiah's heart lifted, his voice steady. Thank you, Coach, he said, his tone calm. I just wanted to play. The crowd continued to cheer, their voices a wave of support. Isaiah's teammates hoisted him onto their shoulders, parading him around the field. He's our MVP. A teammate named Caleb shouted, his voice bright. The stands roared. He's a legend, a girl in the crowd yelled. He proved them wrong. Her friend replied, Isaiah's journey to this moment had been grueling. After the shoulder injury, he had spent months in physical therapy, adapting to his limitations. He focused on his speed, honing his footwork to evade tackles, his catches becoming sharper, his runs more precise. He had studied plays late into the night, learning to read defenses with a new intensity. His resilience had paid off game after game, scoring crucial touchdowns, breaking through defenses that underestimated him. His teammates had come to rely on him. You're our secret weapon, Marcus had said after a win, his tone warm. Isaiah had smiled. I'm just playing my game, he'd replied, his tone steady. The crowd's cheers washed over him, their voices a testament to his impact. Isaiah's family watched from the stands, his mother's eyes shining with tears of pride. That's my boy, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. His younger sister waved a foam finger. He's the best, she shouted, her voice bright. Isaiah had turned his pain into power, his exclusion into a celebration of his talent. The team was now a united front, their victory a shared triumph. We're better with you, Isaiah, Caleb said, his voice warm. Isaiah smiled. We're better together, he replied, his tone steady. The tension that had once defined the football field was gone, replaced by a sense of unity. Isaiah's heart raced with pride, his mind soaring. He knew this was a turning point, a moment that would define his future, a moment that affirmed his strength, his truth, his very identity. He had faced his tormentors, faced their cruelty, and now he stood tall, a young man who belonged, not because he conformed, but because he had dared to persevere. A moment of victory had arrived, a moment that would change everything, a moment that showed the world he was more than enough. The football field at Jefferson High School was a quiet haven in the weeks following the playoff triumph. The emerald turf now a symbol of victory, the air filled with the gentle hum of late spring and the distant chatter of students preparing for summer break. Isaiah Jackson stood near the 50-yard line, his small frame a testament to resilience, his maroon and white uniform now a badge of honor, his helmet tucked under his arm, his short curly hair catching the breeze. His deep brown eyes, one still sharp, the other a reminder of past struggles, reflecting a steady pride. His hands tossed a football lightly between them, his heart calm with newfound purpose. Isaiah was a 16-year-old junior of African descent. His journey from a bullied outsider to a celebrated hero, a story that had reshaped the school's culture. His game-winning touchdown in the playoffs, scored despite a severe shoulder injury, had not only led Jefferson High to victory, but had also caught the eye of the broader football community. Today, he was preparing for a life-changing opportunity. A small crowd of students and parents gathered on the sidelines, their voices a soft murmur of excitement. A man in a black polo shirt and jeans approached the field, his clipboard in hand, his expression one of keen interest. He was Coach Reynolds, a scout from the Georgia Junior Bulldogs, an amateur football team known for developing young talent. Isaiah Jackson, Reynolds called, his voice warm but professional. Isaiah turned, his heart racing. "Yes, sir," he said, his tone steady. Reynolds extended a hand. "I'm Coach Reynolds with the Georgia Junior Bulldogs," he said. "I saw your playoff game. You've got heart, kid. I'd like to talk about you joining our team." Isaiah's heart soared, his hands trembling slightly as he shook Reynolds' hand. "Thank you, sir," he said, his voice steady. "I'd be honored." The crowd murmured, their voices a mix of awe and support. "He's going big," a boy in the stands whispered. "He deserves this," his friend replied. Reynolds smiled, his voice encouraging. "You've overcome a lot, Isaiah," he said. "I heard about your injury. Most players would have quit, but you didn't. That's the kind of spirit we want." Isaiah's eyes glistened, his voice steady. "I couldn't quit," he said. "Football's my life. I had to keep going." Reynolds nodded, his tone warm. "We'll set up a tryout," he said. "But I've got a good feeling about you." The moment marked a turning point, but it also ignited a reckoning at Jefferson High. The news of Isaiah's potential recruitment spread like wildfire. Reaching the administration, Principal Carter called an urgent meeting. His office a stark space with its polished desk and framed certificates, the air heavy with the weight of accountability. Carter sat behind his desk, his expression a mix of unease and determination. Coach Thompson stood nearby, his gruff face pale. Ryan Mitchell and his group, Tyler, Ethan, and Caleb, sat in chairs, their faces a mix of defiance and anxiety. "We've received a formal complaint," Carter began, his voice sharp. "Isaiah's family has filed a report about the incident that caused his shoulder injury, and given his recent recognition, we can't ignore this any longer." Ryan's jaw tightened, his voice sharp. "It was an accident," he said, his tone defensive. "We didn't mean to hurt him," Tyler nodded, his voice desperate. "Yeah, it was just a play." He said, his tone shaky. Carter raised a hand, his voice firm. "Enough," he said, his tone final. "We've reviewed statements from other players. Multiple witnesses confirmed the tackle was deliberate, and the team's behavior toward Isaiah was discriminatory." The room fell silent, the weight of the accusation heavy. Coach Thompson shifted uncomfortably, his voice low. I didn't think it was serious," he said, his tone hesitant. "I thought he'd shake it off." Carter's eyes narrowed, his voice sharp. "You dismissed a serious injury," he said, "and you allowed a culture of bullying to thrive, effective immediately. You're on administrative leave pending a full investigation." Thompson's face paled, his hands trembling. "But I've coached here for years," he stammered, his voice quivering. Carter turned to Ryan and his group, his voice cold. Ryan Mitchell, showing Tyler Hayes, Ethan Brooks, Caleb Evans. "You're suspended from the team for the remainder of the season," he said. "You'll also attend mandatory anti-discrimination training, and you'll write a formal apology to Isaiah and his family." Ryan's face turned red, his hands clenching into fists. "This isn't fair," he shouted, his voice desperate. "He's the one who doesn't belong." Carter's voice was unyielding. "You don't get to decide who belongs," he said. "Your actions caused harm, and you'll face the consequences." The crowd outside the office, who had gathered to listen, murmured in support. They got what they deserved. A girl in a cheerleader uniform whispered. Isaiah deserves better, her friend replied. Carter turned to Isaiah, who had been called to the meeting, his expression softening. Isaiah, I owe you an apology, he said, his tone sincere. We failed to protect you, and I'm sorry. Your talent and resilience have shown us what true strength looks like. Isaiah's heart lifted, his eyes glistening. Thank you, he said, his voice steady. I just wanted to play. The school's reaction marked a turning point. The investigation had revealed a pattern of discrimination, documented by teammates who had witnessed Isaiah's mistreatment. Ryan and his group faced further consequences, including community service. The football team became a space of inclusivity, its members now embracing diversity. We're better with you, Isaiah, Marcus said, his voice warm. Isaiah smiled. We're better together, he replied, his tone steady. The tension that had once defined Jefferson High was gone, replaced by a sense of unity. Isaiah's heart raced with pride, his mind soaring. He knew this was just the beginning, that there would be more challenges, more games to win. But he was ready. Ready to face them with the strength he'd found, the strength that had carried him from a place of rejection to a position of recognition. A moment of justice had arrived, a moment that would shape his future, a moment that affirmed his strength, his truth, his very identity. The football field at Jefferson High School had evolved into a sanctuary of camaraderie by the fall of Isaiah Jackson's senior year. The emerald turf, now a symbol of unity, the air filled with the crisp scent of autumn leaves and the echoes of laughter from a team bound by mutual respect. Isaiah stood at the center of the field, his small frame a commanding presence, his maroon and white uniform now adorned with a captain's emblem, his helmet tucked under his arm, his short, curly hair catching the breeze, his deep brown eyes radiating a quiet confidence that had blossomed since his playoff heroics. His hands held a playbook as he coached a group of younger players. Isaiah was now a 17-year-old senior of African descent. His journey from a bullied outsider to a respected team captain, a story that had reshaped the school's culture. His game-winning touchdown in the playoffs, scored despite a severe shoulder injury, had not only led Jefferson High to victory, but had also earned him a spot with the Georgia Junior Bulldogs, an amateur team, sparking a reckoning at the school. As he demonstrated a running route, a familiar voice called out, "Looking sharp, Captain," Marcus said, his tone warm, his smile genuine as he jogged over. Isaiah's heart lifted, his voice steady. "Thanks, man," he replied, his tone warm. "Let's get these guys ready for the season." The team nodded, their faces a mix of determination and admiration. Even Ryan Mitchell and his group, Tyler, Ethan, and Caleb, now reintegrated after their suspension, had changed. "You're a beast, Isaiah," Ryan had said one day, his tone reluctant but sincere. Isaiah had nodded. "We're better together." He had replied, his tone steady, the moment a small but significant victory. Isaiah's confidence had blossomed. His once shy demeanor, now a quiet authority, he became a leader in his own way, mentoring younger players. "Focus on your footwork," he'd tell them, his tone encouraging. "It's about speed, not just strength." His words resonated, the players looking up to him with admiration. "You make it look easy," a freshman named Jalen said, his voice soft. Isaiah smiled. "It's not easy," he replied, "but you'll get there." His influence spread beyond the team. Students who had once overlooked him now sought his guidance. "You've changed the team," a girl in a cheerleader uniform said, her voice warm. "I thought I'd never fit in, but you showed me I can." Isaiah listened, his heart full. "You belong here, Bob," he said. "We all do." The school continued to evolve, the anti-discrimination initiatives fostering a sense of community. Isaiah organized a Tackle for Unity event, inviting local teams for a friendly match and community outreach, the field packed with players and families. "We're stronger when we play as one," Isaiah said in his opening speech, his voice echoing through the stands. The crowd cheered, their voices a testament to his impact. Coach Reynolds, his new mentor from the Georgia Junior Bulldogs, watched from the sidelines, his eyes shining with pride. "You're a natural leader, Isaiah," he said, his voice warm. Isaiah smiled. "I learned from the best," he replied, his tone steady, their bond a source of strength. Isaiah's leadership extended beyond the school. He started volunteering at a local youth center, teaching football to kids from marginalized communities. "You don't have to be the biggest to play," he'd tell them, his tone warm. "You just have to have heart." The kids looked up to him, their eyes shining with admiration. "I want to be like you," a young boy named Malik said, his voice soft. Isaiah smiled. "You'll be better," he replied, his tone steady. His work with the center earned him a community service award. "You're an inspiration," the director said at the ceremony, her tone warm. Isaiah accepted the award, his heart full. "I just want to give back," he replied, his tone steady. His influence continued to grow. He started a blog, Run for Change. Sharing his story of overcoming racism and injury, his posts gained traction. "Your story gives me hope," a reader commented. "You're a role model," another wrote. Isaiah's heart soared with each message, his dream of making a difference now a reality. Coach Reynolds watched his growth with pride. "You're going places, kid," he said one day, his voice warm. Isaiah smiled. "I had the best team," he replied, his tone steady, his bond with his teammates a testament to unity. Isaiah's confidence was a shield, but also a bridge. He joined the school's diversity council, advocating for more inclusive sports programs. "Everyone deserves a chance to play," he'd say, his tone clear. His words resonated. The council organizing a sports festival that brought the school together. "You've changed us," Principal Carter said, his voice warm. Isaiah nodded. "I just wanted to play," he replied, his tone steady. The tension that had once defined Jefferson High was gone, replaced by a sense of community. Isaiah's heart raced with pride, his mind soaring. He knew this was just the beginning, that there would be more challenges, more games to win, but he was ready to face them with the strength he'd built, the strength that had carried him from a place of rejection to a position of inspiration. A moment of empowerment had arrived, a moment that would shape his future, a moment that affirmed his strength, his truth, his very identity. On the vibrant turf of a minor league football stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, shimmered under the brilliant stadium lights, its emerald field a stage for dreams unfolding. The air filled with the roar of an enthusiastic crowd and the sharp crack of helmets colliding. Isaiah Jackson stood in the backfield, his now toned frame a testament to years of unwavering dedication, his Georgia Junior Bulldogs uniform fitting perfectly, the black and gold colors a symbol of his journey, his short, curly hair tucked beneath his helmet, his deep brown eyes, one still sharp, the other a reminder of past struggles, radiating a fierce determination. He gripped the football, ready for a crucial play in his first minor league game. Isaiah was now 18, a rising star of African descent. His journey from a bullied high schooler to a professional prospect, a story that had inspired countless others. The crowd waited eagerly, their applause a warm welcome as the announcer's voice boomed. Taking the handoff for the Georgia Junior Bulldogs, Isaiah Jackson. The stands erupted, their cheers a testament to his growing fame. Isaiah's journey to this moment had been paved with challenges, but his love for football had carried him through. "I used to think my differences held me back," he'd later say in a post-game interview, his tone reflective. "But then I realized they're my strength, my story, and football is how I share it with the world." The audience roared, their voices a wave of support. Isaiah had come a long way since his days at Jefferson High. His playoff heroics, scoring the game-winning touchdown despite a severe shoulder injury, had been a turning point. The school's reckoning after his injury, the suspension of Ryan and his group, and the administrative leave of Coach Thompson had given him justice. But it was his recruitment by the Georgia Junior Bulldogs that had set him on a new path. "You've got heart, kid," Coach Reynolds had said. And those words had fueled Isaiah's ascent. He had spent his senior year training with the Bulldogs, adapting to his injury with relentless determination. His shoulder now healed, but his technique forever changed. He relied on his speed, his agility, his instincts sharper than ever. His performance on the field soared, his runs becoming legendary. "He's a phenomenon," a scout had said, his tone awed. Isaiah had turned his pain into power, his exclusion into a celebration of resilience. His tryout with the Bulldogs had been a success, leading to a contract that marked the start of his professional journey. "You're going to the minors," Reynolds had said, his voice warm. Isaiah had smiled. "I'm ready," he'd replied, his tone steady. That contract had opened doors. Scouts from college teams now watched his games. "He's got NCAA potential," one had noted. His tone impressed. Isaiah's influence grew beyond the field. He started a foundation, Run for Equity, wages to support young athletes from marginalized communities. "Your background doesn't define your future," he'd tell them, his tone warm. "Your grit does." His words echoed his own journey. His foundation hosted clinics, scholarships, and mentorship programs, giving kids a chance to shine. "You're changing lives," a parent said at one event, her voice soft. Isaiah smiled. "I'm just giving them what I needed," he replied, his tone steady. His work with the foundation earned him a National Youth Award. "You're a beacon of hope," the presenter said, her tone warm. Isaiah accepted the award, his heart full. "I just want to play," he replied, his tone steady. His story had gone viral, sports networks featuring him as a rising star. From injured underdog to prodigy, the headlines read, Isaiah became a sought-after speaker, schools and organizations inviting him to share his story. "I was told I didn't belong," he said at a youth summit, his voice steady. "But I learned that belonging isn't about fitting in. It's about standing up, about playing your game, about loving yourself, no matter the odds." The audience stood, their applause a testament to his impact. Isaiah took a bow, his eyes shining with tears of joy. He felt powerful, unstoppable, a force. Back on the field, the quarterback snapped the ball, and Isaiah took off, his speed a blur as he weaved through the defense. His injured shoulder a distant memory, his body moving with precision. The defense closed in, but he found a gap, sprinting 40 yards for a touchdown. The crowd exploded, their cheers a wave of love. "He's incredible," a fan shouted. "He's a star," another replied. Isaiah crossed the end zone, his heart soaring, his mind clear. He had done it. He had turned his struggle into success, his injury into inspiration. His teammates mobbed him. "You're killing it, Isaiah," a teammate shouted, his voice warm. Coach Reynolds watched from the sidelines, his eyes shining. "That's my guy," he said, his voice warm. Isaiah's family sat in the stands, his mother's tears of pride glistening. "That's my boy," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. His younger sister waved a foam finger. "He's the best," she shouted, her voice bright. Isaiah had turned his pain into purpose, his story into a movement, and in doing so he had shown the world that he belonged, that he mattered, that he could inspire. Years later, Isaiah stood on the field of an NFL stadium, a different crowd, a different city, but the same message. "I was told I didn't belong," he said in a post-game interview, his voice steady. "But I learned that belonging is about creating your own path, about lifting others up, about playing with heart, no matter the odds." The crowd cheered, their applause a testament to his legacy. Isaiah smiled, his heart full. He knew this was his destiny, that there would be more challenges, more games to win, but he was ready to face them with the strength he'd forged, the strength that had carried him from a school of rejection to a world of football. A moment of fulfillment had arrived, a moment that would shape his future, a moment that affirmed his strength, his truth, his very identity. Isaiah transformed hardship into a football legacy, inspiring us with his courage. Thanks for joining us. If his story resonated with you, smash that like button, share it, and subscribe with notifications on for more uplifting stories of grit and achievement.